I remember several decades ago, before I got into wine, I was talking to a friend who lived in St. Louis. Bill mentioned they were getting ready to have a vertical wine tasting at their home. This was their first one, and they were really pretty excited about it. I said to him, "Oh yeah, that sounds really cool. So how many people are you going to have? What are you going to do? How are you going to set it up? What's it going to be like?" He went on to tell me all about it, the number of people that they were going to have, the wines they were going to be tasting, how it was going to be in their backyard. He was pumped, and Betty was in her element. I got off the phone with him and I thought to myself, I have no clue what he is talking about. If you're like I was, this video is for you. Today we're going to learn about vertical and horizontal wine tastings. Plus, there'll be an added big bonus at the end. Keep in mind also, if you like what you hear, click like and subscribe and hit the little bell so you'll be notified when there's a new post. Also, make sure you share this with your wine friends. They will definitely find it helpful. The first thing we're going to do is take a look at what's called the vertical tasting. What it is and what's the point. Put simply, this is when you compare a number of wines from one estate, producer, or vineyard. Each wine comes from a different year or vintage. Among other things, the vertical tasting enables the taster, you, to see how the wine has evolved over time, in addition to understanding the effects of growing conditions during the different years or vintages. Again, the only difference between the wine will be the year they were produced. As an example, you might want to taste the 2018, 19, and 20 Syrah from a single producer. I found that serving the wine in chronologic order from youngest to oldest has been effective. You'll taste and see how the younger wine is a lot simpler and less complex, while the older wine has more subtle, complex flavors. It will be interesting as you experience how the different vintages bring subtle, different nuances to the wine you're tasting. There are 4 basic, easy steps to set up a vertical wine tasting at your home. It's pretty simple. Number 1, choose a favorite producer. Number 2, choose a favorite varietal or wine. Number 3, get 3 to 5 different vintages of that wine in successive years. And number 4, taste each wine side by side in vintage order, youngest to oldest. Now, if you want, do what I do. I use tasting sheets with all the wines on them. That way you and your friends can make notes and compare the notes of each varietal. You end up learning from one another. Now feel free to take a screenshot of this for your reference. You'll see here the top of the sheet has the name of the wine, producer, and the location of the wine. You can even include the varietal and the different grapes if it's a blend. The left-hand column is for the vintage. Then comes a column for you to write your notes, and you can even add another column rating which wines you like the best. I typically use something a little bit more comprehensive, but this should get you started. How are you doing there? Is this information helpful? Making sense? If it is, write yes in the comments below. Actually, have you ever done a wine tasting, a vertical wine tasting? I'd love to hear your stories, again in the comments. The next thing we're going to look at is the horizontal tasting. Horizontal tastings are when you compare one varietal or wine type from different producers. Generally, the wine is from the same year or vintage. The focus of this is not on the year, but on the differences between producers and their effect on the wine. Usually, you want to pick wines that come from the same region, but if you're more of a wine guru, you could also pick another common parameter like grape varietals or wine styles. An example of a horizontal tasting, you could taste 4 different 2019 Zinfandels from, say, Napa Valley, or 3 different 2018 blends from the Rhone River Valley in France. Horizontal tastings are a great way to learn about differences between winemakers and winemaking styles. You know, the first horizontal tasting that I ever did was with somebody who had asked me, you know, you always talk about the taste of different wines and you seem to have such knowledge and understanding of the varying flavors. How do you do that? Now, since she liked Pinot Grigios, I selected 5 Pinot Grigios from northern Italy. All of them were the same vintage. I poured the wine for each of us and asked her to taste the first Pinot Grigio. I asked her, what does it taste like? She paused for a minute and then said, sort of with a smile on her face, good. I said, okay, true, but describe it. In a little bit more detail, describe it. She couldn't. She didn't know how. We then tried the second Pinot Grigio. Without hesitation, she said, I thought this was going to be a Pinot Grigio. I said, it is. Did you taste the difference? She could, and she told me a little bit about what the differences were. With the number 3 and 4 Pinot Grigios, she could identify a little difference in each of them. But by the 5th Pinot Grigio, besides her being a little bit tipsy, she was picking up on some of the basic differences between each wine. If you want to get better at tasting the subtle flavor differences of various wines, a horizontal tasting can be a tremendous exercise. Plus, it's fun to go back and retest several of the samples over and over. Oh yeah, and if you're doing this with a group of people, you could also set up a tasting sheet similar to the one for the vertical tasting. Something like this. You can see here that the columns are a little bit different. Well, there you have it. Everything you need to know about vertical and horizontal wine tastings. Well, almost. Hang in there for the quick bonus at the end. Blind and double blind tastings. But first, thanks so much for investing the time to watch this video. If you got something out of it, let me know in the comments below. And also, subscribe and hit the little bell to be notified when I post new videos every week. And share this video with your wine friends. I'm sure it would be helpful to them and I would really appreciate it. Alright, are you ready for the bonus? There are a couple of other tastings that are fun to do. Both will help you fine-tune your tasting skills. The first is called a blind tasting. This is when you're tasting wine of all the same varietal. You tell everyone in advance what the wine varietal is going to be. Let's say Chardonnay, but you're not told what region of the world it's from. Your challenge is then to tell where the wine is from, whether it's the old world, Europe, or the new world, the US, Australia, New Zealand, Chile, wherever. Also, you have to tell why you think it's from that selected location. To get a better handle on how to distinguish Old World versus New World wines, you might want to check out my video called Old World versus New World Wines. Now there's a second type of blind tasting called the double blind tasting. This one is the ultimate in fun and difficulty. It's great for those who are getting more into wine and want something to do with your wine friends on a Friday and Saturday night. You can't even imagine how fun my house is on a Friday and Saturday night. Anyhow, now in a double blind tasting, bottles are usually wrapped in a paper bag and all are of different varietals or vintages. You then try to figure out what the varietal is in each bag. Is it Old World or New World and the vintage? This one is not the typical drinking game, but it's fun and takes some practice. Actually, a lot of practice. The easiest part of this is determining Old World versus New World. Then, where in the Old World or New World it's from. What country and region. Honestly, I struggle with the vintage part of it. Frequently, the master sommeliers can tell you the country, the region, the vineyard, and in some cases, the name of the winemaker. It's absolutely incredible. Well, there you have it. Thanks again for joining me. Make sure you watch the other videos that I talked about. And remember to hit like and subscribe if you got something out of this video. Until next time, cheers.